Good afternoon, everybody. Right then, down to this tutorial, which is a dog's nose. Dog noses can be quite different in a lot of ways, but they do have, they're fun to do because they've got a lot of texture in them. It's a bit like leather sometimes, you know, some of the looks that you get with them and the shiny bit on them. So this is a dog's nose that we're going to be attempting. The image reference you can download. There's a line drawing you can download and a list of the materials as well. But I'll go through those. Now, this was my first go at it. Now, if you look carefully, you can see there are lots and lots of different colours in this nose. We've got from blue to green to a bit of yellow, a pinky purple look, and then we've got like the dark sepia. Black if you like, but I don't really use black, so it's, you know, a mixture of other colours, and you can see it's got like a leathery texture, and then we've got some of these highlights around here and low lights. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to be attempting to do. You've got your reference photograph as well that you can download, and as I say, it is from it's from Pixabay, but it's nice to give them a mention as well, that you have used that reference. So let's just get started. I'm just going to try and get me, that's it. I've got mine up on my tablet, so I've got it quite big. So as you can see, my reference on my tablet, so I can zoom right into, you can see it's got some greens there, we've got blues, we've got like the purples there, dark colours there, a little bit of the green running through this area as well. It goes up to a pale blue up here, and then obviously we go on to the muzzle area. We'll do a little bit of that as well. Okay, so that's the close-up of the reference, and that's my first attempt. Right then, so I've got mine sketched out here, but before we do that, first thing we need to look at is materials. Now I'm using, this time I'm using just a nice, mine's Fabriano Artistico, which is one of my favoured papers, but as long as it's a nice smoothish paper. A watercolour paper, HP hot press would be better. It's got some texture, but it is quite smooth. Another good one is Strathmore Bristol Vellum. I find that's quite good as well for coloured pencil. So the choice is entirely yours, but you want something that the pencil will take to, but you want a nice smooth look as well. So that's the paper. There is a line drawing if you don't want to draw it freehand, but if you can draw it freehand, that's even better. You'll need a broom, a sweeping broom, because we like to sweep off all the dust every couple of seconds. The pencil I use to do the outline is a mechanical pencil, because you get a nice constant thin lead in there, which you can put on very lightly. So you can see, I don't know if you can probably see mine very well, but mine's quite light. I don't like my drawings to be too dark. I've got a little mono eraser, which is good for little areas. I also have like a putty rubber, which I use. It's a bit of a clean, but the putty rubber. And I may need a scraping tool. Now, you can use a craft knife, or you could use a ceramic blade. This is a ceramic. This one isn't unusual. This one's so I can put my finger through it like that, hold it, and I've got a little bit more control with it. Now, these are ceramic blades. So let me put this light on. I don't know if you can see me any better there. This is a ceramic blade, so it's like a plasticky blade. It's a lot safer than a craft knife, but they do last a lot longer, and they do produce some very nice fine details. So I now use this rather than a craft knife, which can damage a paper a lot more than what these can. So that's what I've opted for. Now, you can get them in various styles. You can get a normal one. It's a bit like, it just looks like a bit of a Stanley knife, Stanley blade, and you can get refillable blades for them. And that has a cap on it. And then this one here is if you look, you've got to look really carefully. The blade is so minute there. And that is really very good for very, very fine hairs. And I do use that one quite a lot. And then obviously there's this one where you put your finger through there, hold it there, you get a little bit more control with that one. And then you've got the main big slice. I haven't got that one on me at the moment, but that's like that's got a retractable blade. Okay, and then you've also, if you want to, you can use a little battery operated rubber. I can get in small spaces too. Now then, back to the pencils. So most of the pencils for this project are polychromos. So I'll go through them. We've got a white, we've got the warm grey one, we've got a cold grey one, warm grey 2, I've got ivory, cream, I've got cold grey 3, sky blue. The greens, we've got earth green, yellowish, and chrome oxide green. I've got in the purple tones, I've got purple violet, blue violet, and Delft blue. And then I've also added in a little bit of the red violet, because there are certain parts on the nose where it looks like a reddy violet. I've got a Payne's grey, a sepia, and a black. In the luminance, I've also found a useful one. There is a dark flesh, so it's like a reddy brown, not quite. It's a bit darker than the burnt sienna, so that one I found we may use that a little bit. Now, we may not use all of these colours, but these are the colours that when I was looking at the picture and the reference and trying to sort out what colours we could need, these are the colours that I've come up with. Now, we may use them all, we may even add 1 or 2 to them, but these are the basics that I think, if you've got these sort of colours, if you haven't got polychromos, doesn't matter, just try and get as close to colours as you can to this. Okay, so they're the colours. So let's get started. So I've drawn the image out. I've just alleviated some of the pencil work, so you can see there it's not quite as heavy, but I'm hoping you can still see it there. Because I don't want the pencil lines showing through on the end piece. So also you're going to need a very good sharpener. Now, at the moment I've been using I've got an electric one, but I also use this one, which is the Derwent mini sharpener, and I find this one's very good because it's got here, when you open that up, it'll take all different size barrels, so that one's quite good, and you can get a nice sharp point with that one. So when we start, I'm going to use to start with some of I need to get some base colours in. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at my dark sepia, which is one of my most used pencils. Let's have a look. I've got the warm grey and the cold grey. Oh, there we go, and my dark sepia. White I use for the mixing as well. So to start with, just to get some of the base layers in, I'm just going to use, I'm going to make sure these are nice and sharp. So I've got the warm grey 2. So if you bear with me, I'll sharpen these up. Nice sharp point there. So that's the warm grey 2. I've got the warm grey 1. Nice sharp point. White. Nice sharp point there. Sepia. Nice sharp point. Right, I'm going to use it. I've also put in here, which I haven't put on the list, is an indigo blue. And the reason I'm doing that is for, I'm going to use that in the nostril side because it isn't the perfect black. Another one I'm going to use, see my pencil extender because it's getting a little bit short, but is a sky blue, a light blue, which is up at the top of the nose. Okay, so they'll be good enough to start with. We'll get the foundation layers on and then we'll start to have some more colour. Okay, so I'm just going to shift off all this dust. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark in all the darkish areas. So that's what we're going to do before we start putting any real colour onto this. So if you look at your reference photograph, you're going to be looking at sort of the nostril area and any real dark areas. So we've got a few bits of dark area here. We've got some shadow areas here. But these are the main areas, and what we're going to do is plot them in. So we're not going to really saturate the colour to start with. So I'm going to go with my main pencil, which is the sepia. Now I'm only using a light layer, so I'm going to hold the pencil quite far back. So I'm going to start by just outlining. Keep looking at your reference. So I'm going to outline this nostril. Now be careful with the nostril because you've got this inner part which is really dark, and then if you look, it starts to come out here, which is dark to light. So I'm actually only drawing this sort of area which is really, really dark. So it's the very inner side of the nostril, which then comes up here. So I've just marked that in, and then if I come along to this side, we've then got this side as well, so that comes right up to there. So again, I'm holding the pencil quite far back, and all I'm really doing is redrawing from my outline the shape, just to make sure and double check that you've got the shape of the nostril right, and that comes up there. Okay, and then there's this line here, which is again just the very light pressure. It's like the center of the nose there. Okay, right then, so we've planned in those sort of areas, and then what I'm going to do is using a very small circular motion, again light pressure, so I'm holding the pencil quite far back, and just small circular motions, I'm putting a very light layer of the dark sepia. Okay, so getting a nice even coverage and a light layer. Okay, keep looking at your reference photograph. And then over to this side. And again, small circular motions, getting a nice even coverage. Small circular motions. Keep checking your reference. It's really important that we get this and make sure that you try and get the shape right. Okay, so it's going to come up there, and then the bottom side comes down here. So we've got a bit of a shadow here on this side. So I'm just literally just going to plot in some of that with, again, circular motion, sepia pencil. Outline where it goes to, try and get the shape right because that all adds to the shape of the nose. It comes up that way a bit. So again, still light pressure. And then that side's plotted in. Come down this side. We've got a shadow on this side as well. So that comes down that way. So mark that in. And again, small circular motions. Checking your reference, it comes up and it comes out this way a little bit. Then it comes back down here. And then if you look, we've got two little dint bits here. So all I'm going to do is, I'm just going to, because you can't see all of the markings on that, I'm just going to literally looking at the area, making sure the shape, and I'm just putting a very, very light, the lightest layer I can. Comes up to this centre nose piece there, and then it sort of comes off a little bit. It's not quite as big an area on this side. And again, that's just by checking your reference. Okay, so we've got those areas mapped in, and it looks very strange at the moment, I must admit, but it'll start to take shape in a little while. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the warm grey one, and actually the cold grey one I need as well. So that's cold grey 3. Where's the cold grey one? So warm grey one. I need a cold grey one. Where are you? It's in there somewhere. Just bear with me. Right, let me just get that one. Cold grey one. That's 2. Cold grey one. Okay, so I just need to sharpen the cold grey 2. Cold grey 1, sorry. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put a base coat over the rest of the nose before we put any colours on there. Okay. So again, using a circular motion, starting with the warm grey one, loose, nice, light pressure, literally circular motions, and I'm going over the whole of the nose, even the areas what we've just put in with the dark colour. So this is a warm grey one. Around the nose. So this is giving the paper a nice base coat of very neutral grey colours that help to shape the lighter colours that have come through later on. And you know, we can add the other colours to it. It's just they're just 2 pencils that do make a nice base layer. I use these a lot if I'm using white, if there's any white fur or white anywhere, because you know you don't get perfect white, and the warm grey one and the cold grey one are quite good colours to use as a base for that. So just continuing with light pressure, circular motion. Okay, brushing the dust away. And then I'm going to go over the top again with a cold grey one. So this will neutralise the warm grey one as well, and it just gives a nice base layer. And again, come over all of these other areas where we've got the real dark areas. Keep moving your dust away. Okay. What this is doing is this is giving you, as I say, a nice base layer to work from, and it is putting some colour into the tooth of the paper. So as we start to work with the colours, we'll get a nice smoother look and finish to the colours. Okay. So I'm coming around there. Let's go over it a couple of times. So now we've got some pencil over all of the area of the nose now. Okay. Put those pencils to one side a minute. Right, so what I'm going to look at now is we've got this top of the nose and we've got some highlight areas here. Now then, what I'm going to do, now you could leave the white of the paper or you could leave this, because as we darken it up, this will become lighter. What I'm going to do is I use my Tombow and I'm just actually going to lightly extract, because we only put the base coat on very lightly. This Tombow rubber doesn't really damage the paper that much. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally extract out some of the lighter pencil underneath, so the grey, into the shape of where the highlight is. It's not exactly a highlight, it's a low light, so it's going to have some colour in it. I'm not taking off too much of the pencil, you'll still see it. I don't even know if you can see where I've taken I've just taken a bit of the colour off there. And then on this side, got this highlight that comes down here, comes into that area there. There we go. So that's really it there. And then this is a bit of a low light again, so it's not as bright as this bit. The only real bright highlight is just in this corner here. So again, you can see there, it's just a very faint amount I've just taken out. You could have just left that when you were putting the pencil in, because we are just doing light layers, but I do want a bit of colour in there, but I just want to be able to see where I'm going. Right then, now then, at the top of the nose here, you'll notice we've got a blue area. You can see here, it's quite light. So I'm just going to map that in first. So it's literally across the top. Now we're only mapping it in, so I don't want to go too mad with this colour. And again, just check on your reference and make sure you get the shape of this right. So it sort of comes up thin there, and then it gets a little bit broader as it comes around here. And it comes across more or less horizontally, and then it comes quite sharply down this side. Okay, so again, a light stroke, circular motion just to push that colour there. We will be using a bit more of this colour and darkening it, but it's just to mark in where that is going to go. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally pull bits out here at the top, so it's not a straight edge, because it does go, this is where the fur comes from on the top of the muzzle from here. So if you just do a circular motion but lift off little pieces, so it's a little bit of a rough edge around here. Okay, so it's not a smooth line. That. Okay, so that's the top there of the nose. Right then, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dark sepia again, and I'm going to start and darken up a little bit on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to put the centre in. Now, again, it's still light pressure, but using a sharp pencil. And if you look, I keep turning my pencil point so it keeps it sharp for a long time. And I'm coming down. I'm not coming straight down in a straight line, because you know this is a dog's nose, so it's not going to be, it's not a geometric shape or anything. But I'm just sort of putting in, still using a small circular motion, and I'm just sort of just a little bit extra pressure in. So put that down there, and then we're going to be putting colours over it, because that's a crease in the nose. So you're going to then get from either side, you're going to get it sort of coming from the darker back into the lighter side here. So, but it's going to be a slightly different colour. Let's just map that in. Now I'm going to work in the nostril, and I'm just going to put another layer up. So I'm going to start layering this colour up a little bit. So I'm using small circular motions again, just that little bit extra pressure. Now, when you look at this, look at your nostrils, and you'll find, because this is like a hole, you're looking into the dog's nostril. So this is the effect we've got to give it, that it's an actual hole that you're looking into. So this edge here is quite a sharp edge, because that's where, you know, this is totally in shadow here. This is the hole. This is the deepest bit of the hole. But as you come into this edge, what's happening is some of the skin, it's coming out of the hole, and the skin is sort of coming round here. So it gets a little bit lighter on this end. So what I'm doing is I'm actually just pulling a little bit of pressure off and not making it quite as dark at the edge. Okay, so most of the real dark colour is going to be sort of central and around this edge here. Now this is going to be a nice crisp edge. That one we're going to add other colours to it and break it up a little bit. So the dark bit comes around here. Just pull the pressure off a little bit there, not too much, but and then the same as we come down here, so we hit there, and then this is where the skin starts to come out this way. So you've got this sort of movement here. And again, it changes colour and tone. So it's not quite as dark, and it just changes colour a little bit. So again, loose circular motions. And it comes to about here. Okay. And then this is where it's sort of a creasy mark again, and it comes up to that side of the nostril there. And then this is the bottom section here. Okay. So, and then back to this side and do exactly the same. So this bit here is going to be sort of a more, this is where the shadow is going to be on this side. So you're going to get the darkest section of the nose. Inner nose is going to be here. So again, just go back over. Still fairly light strokes, just a little bit extra pressure. Still got a lot to build up on here. So that'll come up here. It comes round. And it comes here. Okay. And then we've got, this is where it starts to hit the highlight, but there is a sort of just a thin line there. So I'm just going to put that in just so we know where it is. And then this is going to be dark as well. Okay, so round, so small circular motions. Keep looking at your reference. Okay, again at the bottom, the skin is going to sort of come back out. So we're going to have some other colours in at this edge. And then it comes around here, which it gets a little bit. Okay. And then so I'm now just doing another lightish pressure, and I'm just putting in these shadow areas a little bit now. But again, we're going to be adding more colour to these. Okay. What's that little dimple area there? There we go. Okay, right, we'll take a break now, and then I'll show you how we do the rest of it shortly. Okay. Right then, back again. So like you said, it's looking a little bit like a cartoon face. It's looking like a cartoon face at the moment. But we're now going to start building up some colours. So what I'm going to look at next, the next stage I'm going to look at is, we're not going to put any of this detail in until the end. So what I'm looking at now is we're going to have a look at some of these, the colours here. And then I want to have a look at this section here. So like I've explained before, if you look, we've got this crease going up, and then we have this dark shadowy area that seems to come out here. And we've got to give the impression that this is skin that sort of curls out from the nose and into this section here, which is the crease down the centre. So we've got some darkish lines here that we can put in, some of the basic ones. So that gives us an idea of which direction we're going to be putting these shapes. And then what we need to do is we're not going to do all of the detail, and then we're going to put some of these colours in, start to build up these low lights and these colours here, and then glaze some colours in. And then at the top here, it comes up to be a bit more purpley, brighter purple colour, and blues up here. And then we'll go back in and put the detail in, and then we can put some fur around the muzzle if you like. So if we have a look at just putting some of these markers in for where these colours are, and these darker colours here, so we can shape them in, and then we'll look at building this section up here so we can get a bit more shadow area in. But before we do that, let's just put a couple of these darker area markers in so we know they're giving us an indication as to where and how the nose is turning. So we've got some that come up this way here, and we've got a few down here. So if you look at your reference photo, and I'm going to use the dark. Actually, no, I'm going to use. I'm just going to sharpen the cold grey. I've got cold grey 3, I think it is here. Is it cold grey 3? Yeah, cold grey 3. Okay, I'm just going to sharpen up a little bit. Also, I'm going to use a red violet. It's like a reddy tinge to it. Points. Okay, and then also just sharpen up the 2 greens that we've got, and the cream. Yellowish green, and this is the cream. Red green. And then obviously a cream colour. Right. First of all, I'm just going to mark in some of these areas. So I'm looking around this area. So I've gone into my my reference. So I can see, I'm going to mark roughly. So this is going to come out here. So I'm just going to put some of these darker, I'm just going to mark them in with a very light. So it sort of comes that way and then down there. Okay, so I've got one biggish line there, and then there's another one which comes out of the nostril that way there, and then just disappears there. So I'm going to put them in. There's one that sort of comes around that area. So this is giving me an indication as to which way. And we've got some smaller ones coming off here. Then when I look at this top bit here, we have got, so up here they are quite small. I'm just going to put a couple of these marks in just to give me an indication as to which way. So if I put them in the sepia, we can go back over them with another colour. And then as we come round this way, it sort of comes back on itself, and then we start to go that way. So you can see this is where the nostril will, it'll all start to make sense in a little while. And then on this side, if you look here, we've got sort of like and it comes round there. And then we've got some shapes here. Again, we've got some small shapes coming out here, and then they sort of come round here. And then this side, this is where we've got a few bigger ones sort of. So this is where the nose sort of comes back out on itself there. And that sort of looks like a bit of a triangle there. Okay. And then they come sort of there. So I've got those marked in. And then if you look from this crease here, we've got some that go sort of like that. So I'll just put a few of those marks in as well. They come up here. Starts to, so I'm just going to put a few little of these shapes in just so it gives me an indication. And that sort of comes round here. And we got some of these where the nose starts to turn in a little bit here. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. And then again on this side here. Right, so that's just some little marks in there. They're not going to be in exactly the right place, but they'll be in more or less. Right then, so next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use these 2 greens. So the lighter of them is the earth green yellowish, and then the next one is the chrome oxide green. So if we look on the side of the reference here, we've got these little bit green areas that have got like bits of scales, and also down here on this side, and then later on we'll glaze some into this area. We won't do that just yet though. We'll just get these areas blocked in here, which are the main section. So if you look, as we come out of this nose bit here, small circular motions, look at the shape of that area of the green. So it's starting to come around the curve of the nose here. So it's very light pressure. So I'm just going to roughly, so it's not a massive area. And then as we come down here, it's in this section just here a little bit. Okay, so it's between the highlight and the darker shadow there. So if you go over the darker shadow and fetch it up towards the highlight. Okay, so that's that side. And then this side, it comes sort of down here and it starts to come round the curvature of the nose there. And then on this shadow side, it sort of comes down like it did on that side and it starts to blend with that shadow area just there. Okay, so that's the main section. There is some down here, but we'll put that in later. We'll glaze that in later. So now I'm just going to pick the darker green, the chrome green, and what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to put in a few little patterns. So just using the tip, just to make them look a little bit like they are scales. So you've got the lighter colour coming through. And then using the tip of this darker one, we can put in the markings a little bit. So again, it comes down here. So I'm just doing some little sort of doodly marks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back with this lighter green. Just literally shade with small circular motions over there. And then we will put some darker colours on there to make them stand out a bit more. Okay. And it also has a little bit of this cream in there, so I'm just going to touch a little cream there, wherever you can see the lighter colour. Okay, so that's that bit in. Right then, so now I'm going to take the, I'm going to start with a warm grey 2, I think. And I'm going to look at this central part of the nose here. So let's have a look here. So I'm trying, if you squint at your photograph, you'll see there's like a shape there. And it's a bit like a triangle that comes out there to this bottom section. So we're aiming at that sort of section to start with. And then these shadowy areas up there. So I'm going to start to plot them in a little bit. So if I squint at my photograph, they start about the bottom here. And then just do a small circular motion. So this is actually the warm grey. I've got a warm grey 2 here. And I'm coming over where we've got that dimply shadow bits, because that's where it comes down to and out to. Okay, so that will come around there. Then it hits. I'm going to do all of this bottom area. Like that. It starts to come up here a little bit. And if you look, I'm not doing a dead straight line, I'm just doing it so it's in small circular motions, and it goes into that shadow area there. And same up this side. And I'm curling it round, sort of like the shape of where it's coming out from the nostril. So I'm sort of coming up to where the low light shadow area is. Okay. There we go. So that's that section. I'm just going to now, where's the cold grey? I'm looking for the colour. There we go. Oh, that's all right. There's the cold grey 3 gone. Put it somewhere. Oh, there we go. Should do. So now I'm going to sort of put in another layer of the cold grey 3 over that same area, what we've just done. Okay, so it's almost from the top of that crease. It comes round and down here to meet these shadowy areas. Not quite as dark as the shadow area, so we can see where we're going. Just small circular motions like that. Now it's looking a little bit muddy with the colours, but that's fine, because this is going to be the darker area. So once we've got them in, we've got that shadowy area. Now I am just going to go over this one a little bit more with the cold grey, because that needs to stand out a little bit more. Fade it out as you come down and round. And then just it's going to be the darkest near the crease. So just keep checking your reference photo and just think of it as shapes. Put that shape in, and then up there. And then again, we've got the shadow areas here. Just going to put over them with the coal grey and come up. And same on this side. Plotting those darker shadow areas in, going in over the green a little bit more at the bottom. Okay, there we go. So this is now where we're going to start adding some of this purpley colour in, because if you look, a lot of the nose is quite, it's dark, but it's purpley colours. Now it's not all the same coloured purples, not all quite the same tone. Some of them are more bluey toned. And then here, they've got like a reddy purple in there. Then up here, this is like a reddy dark tone. And then you've got light, the pale blue further up here as well. And then we need to put some blue in these lighter areas down here. So if we get the pale blue, which is the sky blue 146, I'm just going to go back over this area a little bit here. Okay. I'm just going to increase that blue tone there a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is, we look carefully, we've got this sort of area sort of here, which does like, it's like a drawing a pair of curtains as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very light circular motion. So we're going over that base layer, what we had of the greys, and I'm just going to put a very light layer of the blue on there. Because this is the top of the nose, and so it wants to be looking as though it's going back. So it wants to look a fairly cool colour. This side is a little bit more in shadow than the other side. Okay. So I'm just going to sort of do that and fetch it down each side of the nose. This bit here going up is quite dark, and it comes up and then goes over. Okay. So we've got the blue bit in there. Right then, I'm just going to give it a quick whiz with some white. And I'm just sort of going to blend all this in. So I'm using a light pressure circular motion with my white pencil over everything, just to nicely soften. And then also what that will do is on future layers, it'll allow us the future layers will look a little bit smoother. Now, personally, I do prefer, I haven't got one at the moment. I think I've left it. Oh, hang on, I've got one here. I do prefer the luminance white. It's a little bit more opaque. So I've got one here, but if not, the polychromos white is okay, or any white that you can get. But you'll soon, by messing about blending with different whites, you will soon start to find your own preference. Now again, it's just light layers. We're not burnishing. We're blending. So you want light pressure. But what you'll see is your colours will start to lighten up a bit. But that's fine because we've still got a lot more layers to put on. Okay. So now, just going over it all there, including the dark sections as well, because what we're trying to do is blend this pencil into the paper and smooth it out just a little bit more, but without destroying it, so we can add more layers. So it's just a light layer to hold the pencil fairly back and do some nice loose circular motions. And as I say, you'll see your colours lighten up a little bit. Okay, it's still looking a bit of a mess, but that's fine. Right then, so I'm now going to work on the nostrils a little bit more now. Let's just put in a little bit of these blue purpley colours first to map in where the darkest sections are and where the lightest sections are. So for that, I'm going to be using, I've got my red, red violet, There's blue violets, and I've got, where's my Delft blue? My Delft blue. And also I might have a little bit of indigo with me. Right, so I'm just going to look now. So if we look closely at this reference photo, excuse the light there. If we look down here, it's quite a dark purple coming out into a bluey colour. If you come up here, it becomes more reddy purple, and then it becomes more of a dark bluey violet with the green colour there. Okay, so to do, if you get your pencils, make sure you've got some nice sharp points on there, and then we're away. Just put that down again. Whoops. Okay. So coming out of this section here, it's sort of, if you look at the shape of it, it comes out and it comes back round there. That's quite shaded. So do that and go put it into that blue, the dark area as well. It'll all blend in. Like that. Then it's got a bit of a red tinge to it. So I'm actually going to go over with the red violet. So I started with Delft blue, no, blue violet, sorry. And then I'm just going back over the top of it with the red violet, just to change that colour slightly. So it's more of a reddy colour. And I'm not making the edges very straight. I'm going to sort of follow where these lines are coming out. These, and just put a little bit more pressure on in with the purples and the reddy violet, just for those shapes there. Okay, and then the same on this side. So blue violet to start with. So that comes round here, and then it sort of comes in, and then it's around these shapes here. Again, small circular motions, go into the black area or the sepia where we put the sepia. Very light layers, and then again that sort of comes up to there. Okay, and then again I'm going to use the reddy, put a little bit of the red violet on there. Not quite as much as on the other side, because I say this side is more in shadow. And then I'm just going to literally reinforce these lines here, the purpley colour. Okay. So, and then what we've got is we've got the blue violet sort of round this area. Now, don't forget you've got this highlight here. So if you look, this highlight sort of comes around and then it sort of starts to come out into this blue violet. So very light pressure into that, what we've just done with the red and the violet. Okay, follow that. Come back over that where that sepia is and then come up. So if you look, it sort of comes to the top there. This is quite a light. And then it starts to get a bit darker here. So you can put a little bit more pressure on here. This is quite light down here. So it comes up there. And then if you notice, so if you look, it's doing a circle around here. So we've got this bluey violet round here. In there. So it comes around here. Got a little bit of a bit lighter colour there in the middle. So all I'm going to do is miss that out for now. I'm just going to put this, as I say, I'm just mapping in. So if you squint at the best way to get this is to squint at your reference picture and you'll see how these shapes are coming in. And then that shape then will go up here, comes down here, comes down here into this area, hits that nose about there. So it comes round, comes down here. And then we've got it inside this section here. And again, it gets a bit lighter. Comes up to there and then it starts to come back round here. There we go. It comes down to about here, and then we've got this highlight, which when you squint, it's sort of, we've got the purple down here, which can be really dark. And because we've put this sepia there, you can see it's going to be a lot darker. Okay, and then that comes up into that shadow area. Lift your pencil off there because we're going to have quite a bit of highlight area here with just some little shapes in. Okay, we've got a little bit coming off of that reddy purple there. And then just shade that into there. So that's a bit of a highlight as well. It comes around here. Okay, up there. And that's it. So that's the shape. And then as we darken this, it's going to look odd at the moment, but as we darken this, what will happen is this will look, that will start to go back a little bit. And this will come forward, and these darker areas here around this nostril is where you'll see the nostril starting to come back out on itself. Okay, right then, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go over with I'm going to go over the highlightish area quite with a little bit extra pressure, and then I'm just going to go back over everything with the white again just to smooth it off a bit before we start to really start to put some depth in there now. Okay, so you can see from one side to the other how it's softening that colour and it's lightening up a little bit, but okay. You can see that side actually does look a little bit smoother than the other side. Okay. Okay. So that's nicely smoothed off. Okay. So I'll let you catch up with that, and then we will start to really now pull this together and make it start to look like a bit more of a nose. Okay, so I will see you shortly. Right then, so now we've got most of the base layers and we're starting to see the shapes that we're going to be concentrating on. So, right, I'm just going to fill in a little bit more of this green here. So just light circular motions, and then with the dark green, define some of them shapes a little bit more. If you just look carefully at your reference, you'll see and then I'm just going to go over with the cream just to blend them in a little bit more. So by using the cream instead of the white, it's still adding that little bit of colour there. Okay. So now I've got my dark sepia again. Now I'm coming in and I'm going to really start to put, so this is another layer of colour into the nostril of the nose. So this should start now to start looking a little bit smoother. Okay, fetch it down to where that purple, the blue violet is. So small circular motions. Keep looking at your reference. The shape there. Okay. And then I'm going to get with the, I told you I picked up the dark indigo. So what I'm going to do is I'm doing the dark indigo. Same light pressure. Oops. I'm going to go over this where it's really dark, but I want a bit of a, I don't want it to be sort of black or brown. I want a bit of a, by the indigo, we can see how it's starting to change the shadow area a little bit more. So it's giving it a little bit more saturation. So fetch that around there. Okay. Then I'm just going to use the black then just to go back over a little bit there, just light pressure. Oops. Keep turning your, keep the nib. Obviously, the smaller you do your circular motions, the more of the tooth of the paper you're filling in. Okay. Now I'm going right to the edges where I've got it because I need to, that needs to transfer into another colour. So you can see now that's building up a lot of saturation. So once more over the top, more on this side with the indigo up to there, and then come back round. So it's like a, there we go. So that is where the darkest part of the inside of the nostril is going to be. Right then, so now I'm going to go with this Delft blue. And I'm coming out, actually, just need to come back down a little bit more with that sepia. So start with a sepia lightly and just sort of come out from the center, from this hole in the nose. If you sort of come out a little bit, very light pressure, keep your eye on the shapes. So this is where this purplish shape is coming. So it's where the skin is sort of coming back out of the nose there. And then you've got this little light part there, but then that comes sort of into that light highlight area. But by putting sepia on there, it's darken that colour a bit. And then I'm fetching it round here. Still light circular motion. Okay. Coming all the way around and keep going over where the black area is. So it makes it, it starts to look like going from the dark to the light. Okay. And as you get further out into this area, just lift the pressure a bit more. Okay. And as I say, just keep looking at your reference photograph and thinking about the shapes that you're seeing and the tonal ways. So, you know, how tonal it is. So if you look, and I'm moving the pencil in circular motions, but I'm moving it in the direction of form. So that those bits of lines there are telling me which direction of form it is. So this is coming out. So you're radiating out from the nose, from the nostril itself. You can see this colour is building up. But as I'm coming outwards now, I need to lighten it off a bit because we're turning now into the more purpley colour. Okay. And then back down here, we've got this shadow area. So I'm just going to go back over again with this sepia. Okay. More pressure on that crease. And then so circular motion round, down it, past it. There we go. So that starts to make that crease come alive a bit more. Okay. And then I'm just going to work on these shadow bits under here. Okay. So small circular motions, it comes out a bit more there. Just keep looking at the shapes. And then again, direction. So it's not a straight line, got some shapes going up there. Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to build this area up before we do the other side. I've got some green, so do this as a bit of a blue. So I'm just going to go on with get again with a bit of a light blue. So I'm going to fetch that down into where, so I want all these colours to blend nicely together. Okay. So more or less going with a light motion with the blue. And also in this area here, which is going to be a bit of a sort of a lot lighter tone. And then also I'm doing it, if you come down here where this highlight area is, and low light area as we call it, I'm starting to put some blue in here. Okay, I'm going to go right into there because that little bit is quite light. So what I should do is get the white, and where it's the brightest, I'm going to literally put a lot more pressure on there, like that. And then as we come down into this area, just lift the pressure off, but blend that, and you can see now how nicely that is blending. So it's really bright up here, and then as we come round, it gets a little bit lighter, and then we've got some little. So I'm literally just going to go over quickly with the white, light pressure. So it's another layer of blending. You see the colours now starting to blend in together. So the whole piece there is now starting on this side, especially starting to look a lot smoother, and you can see it's now starting to take a bit of shape. So you can see how this now is giving you that impression that it's coming outwards, and then that is skin, the flopper skin there. Right then, so now we're just going to keep rebuilding the colours, and then when we put the detail on at the end, that's when it will really start to take shape. So it's quite, so I've got here is the Delft blue. So I'm going over again circular motion. I'm going to keep this circular motion. I'm going over the darker areas here, up through the centre of the nose section, around this darker area here. So that darkens it, because we've got the sepia, it gives it a slightly different tone. Okay. And then down here, that's the lighter, but I'm not going all the way into where this light blue is. I'm just going to sort of do it here and then fetch it into the shadow area so that it still carries that colour there. And then up here, so coming from this nostril, light pressure, circular motion in the direction of form. Okay, and that comes around here, the shadowy area up there. Okay. As I say, it comes up here. Okay. There we go. So that's starting now to take shape. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit of light blue here, where this area is, and here, just to lighten it up a little bit. Okay. So now, in the centre of this crease, I'm using the black, circular motion, and coming down on this crease in the centre. And then I'm going to start just darkening off. If you look at your reference photograph, you'll see the shadow area, it's quite dark on this side here. So we see the darker tones. Okay, keep them small and light, and then just coming up round here. So if you look, the shadow sort of squint at the photo and you get to see the shape, so it sort of comes up this area a bit. Now, obviously the shadow is the darkest down here at the bottom. So as you work here, that's fine. And then lighten your pressure as you're coming up, because you're coming into a lighter tonal area. So just, so it's where it's the darkest, yes, put your pressure, and then just lift the pressure off it as you're coming up into the other colours, okay? So let's carry on this side. So this side is quite, you've got quite a band of shadow here. And then lift the pressure as I'm coming back into that purpley colour here. Okay, and then down here, it's circular, and then just lift the pressure off. And what happens is you should get a clearer, a smoother transition from one colour and one tone to the other. Okay. As we build this darker area up, this highlight there is becoming more and more obvious. And it wasn't pure white, it's got greys and that in it as well. Okay, so I've got this indigo now. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at my reference and I'm going to try and put a few bits of detail in. So as I say, as we're coming out of this nostril here, this thin white line there, and then it comes into the highlight. And then as we come out here, we've got some distinguishing lines. And then you've got like little bits of, they look like scales. And that's just the leather look of the skin. So if you just use your pencil and do it sort of like circular, but just making little marks, but use different colours. So you've got, I've used a bit of indigo. Make it look, we've got that reddy tone in there. So I'll just go back over with that, the red violet. Into that really dark area, and just turn it as you're coming round. So keep your eye on the reference photo and you're following the direction of form. Okay. And then if you get your blue violet and go over the top, darkens it a bit more, and you can see if you do little circles like that, you'll get some light patches in the middle as well. Okay. Put some colour there to the shadow areas. A little bit up there, it's a bit darker around there as we're coming around this nostril and coming out. Oh. So then I'm going to go with the dark sepia again. And I'm sort of going to shade over very lightly over there, just to dull down it, because it's not a real purple, but it is the bluey purple. But if you put the sepia back on top, gently, it'll dull that tone down a little bit. Okay. So it's like glazing the colour. So what we're doing is just glazing that colour over the top. Okay, and up here. I notice I'm not doing as much blending as I would normally with a white pencil, and that is because if you look at the texture of the paper, it's actually helping. It works with this feature on the dog. So move back over that crease a little bit there. Okay. Then, right, so we have as well, like I said, we've got some of these greens in this area. So what I'm doing now is I've got the green yellowish, and I'm just glazing a bit of colour, following the pattern and the shape. So coming round here. Okay. At the top there. And then also with the chrome green, shading very lightly. We're just actually glazing in some colour. Okay. And then also I'm going to put a little bit of indigo down here because this is darker. And here. And then up here, I'm going to put some indigo, circular motions. And then as I come into this light blue, I'm just going to literally pull back on my pressure so it's a lot lighter and it starts to blend that colour into that pale blue. Okay, so we're doing quite a bit of blending there. Coming back down this side, start to build this side up. Okay. You can see it's starting to take shape now. I mean, obviously we've still got all this detail to put in and it does look a bit, but we're going to do the detail in two ways. We're going to sort of take some out, colour out, pigment out, and also put some pigment in with the darker colour. Okay, so again, I'm just going back in with my black just to really force that colour there. You can really see that dark bit of the nose, but then you can see this as it's coming out. So we've, like I say, we've got this really dark. Here you can see there is a definite line, and then here it sort of starts to fade because we're coming from the dark back into the light. Okay, a definite sort of line here. Okay, I'm going to put some of this black in here as markings, but very lightly. So what I'm doing here is I'm just actually looking at some of the definite, if I put a couple of definite markings in, like scales, that helps. But as we get further up, we don't do as many. These are the more obvious ones that you're going to see. And we've got some little bits of skin as it wrinkles out. So make sure you follow the form so that you get the right direction for the nose. Okay. And coming out this way, a few scales coming back out here and round. We've got that definite mark here that we put in before and one there. Again, I'm just putting some little scale marks in here as you can see them. Now you can do this with the black or you can do it with the sepia. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on with the black. Here is where this sort of section, you won't see much detail because it's sort of a dimply effect in the skin. So this is the dark area and it comes out sort of back into this. So I'm just going to do small circular motions. It comes back into this shadow area. So I'm just darkening this up a lot more. As we come up here, we've got some more shapes and lines like that. Okay. There we go. A little bit more sepia back over here. Glazing it though, so very light. When you're glazing, it's just a very, very light. What you're doing is sort of putting a thin amount of colour over without disturbing too much colour underneath. Okay. I'm just going to check if we've got enough. We've got enough pigment on there to. What I'm going to do at the moment, I'm just going to go over with small circular motions with the cold grey one to blend everything on this side first. Okay. So. Not too much pressure, not heavy. I'm not burnishing, I'm just blending. So you can see now this has got really dark around here. And you can see we've got these different colours in. bit more of this green. We've lost a little bit of that light green here. Put that in. Okay. This is the highlight, so to fetch some of that colour down here. I'm just going to put the white over where the low light, which is just here. It's sort of, if you look, as I said before, we've got this really bright section here, and then it goes into this sort of low light, which is part of the highlight, but it's got colour in it. So that area needs to be lightened a little bit. And come back up here. And I've got a bit of a low light here coming out that side of the nostril. Okay, so you can see now how it's starting to take shape. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if we've got enough pigment in there to move some of this out. Okay. So I'm using my ceramic blade, and what I'm doing is I'm looking at my reference photograph. Now, I'm not going to put every single mark in because that's just going to be ridiculous. But what I'm trying to do is get some. So if you look at them, they're like little circles or scales. So by just using the knife like I would a pencil, I'm just trying to create some of these lines. So this is moving the pigment, but it's not necessarily damaging the paper. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to lightly put in a few where you can see some of the lighter tones and what have you coming out. There's my other one. I'll try to do this one. So down here, I need to take out a little bit of lighter area here. So what I'm doing is trying to take out some light scale shapes. A little bit there. You can see just there now. So all I'm doing is removing some of this pigment. So it's right through this center section here where the low light is. So it's coming from this highlight here. And then you're coming into this low light. Okay. And then if you look carefully at your reference, you might be able to put a few little ones in here because you've got little bits of light. But you don't want a great amount of detail, and you're not going to get the detail perfect. You're just going to give it that impression. The main thing to remember is the direction of form. So this skin is coming round and it's got to come back round this way. Oops. That's my blade. Ooh, let me use the other one. That one's not working properly. I don't know what's happened there. Wobbly. Ooh, with a smaller one. Might be a bit small, but okay. And then coming out here. Come out that way a little bit. Okay, and it's got the odd little bit of real light area here. Okay, and then this nose. Okay, then what I'm going to do is right next to these, some of these lighter areas, I'm just going to actually darken up by putting some real dark contrast in. So I'm putting a little bit more pressure on as we come down here into this section. So that's the low light, so you can see where it's more or less a highlight as such. And then here's quite dark, putting in some very dark contrast. This is where that dimple bit in the skin around the nose is. So there's not a lot of detail in there, so it's just circular motions and darkening that area up. Okay. And then I'm actually going to go with the pale blue over this area a little bit, and over some of those where we've just taken some pigment out, but I put some pale blue in instead. And then up here as well. Okay. And then I'm going to use this Delft blue just to darken up some more of the colour there. Some detail there. As we come up here, now the dark flesh that I said from the luminance, this is where I found this colour up this central part of the nose was a little bit difficult to actually match. So I found that by using, once we've got all this colour in, if you use the dark flesh and just sort of using a circular motion but missing bits out, and just sort of doodling around and leaving some light patches, you do create that sort of scale effect, and it's giving you the colour that we're looking for. So this is sort of like filling in the dark areas, you know, the scale effect. So you're getting this is the filling section. Okay. And actually you can go over the nostril bit, but not where it's really dark on this side. On this side, if you sort of glaze that colour over it, it also then gives you that effect of it going in slightly lighter on this side here. So it's slightly different. It's got a browny tone, whereas here it's got more of a lot darker tone there. So that gives you that effect. And then also down here in this dimple, I'm just going to put a little bit of this dark flesh colour, which is from the Luminance range. And then just glaze around here, just glaze some of this light green there. Okay. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of the red violet here, where we've got quite a bit of that tone going on. So it's like like doing the circular motion, but doing it sort of bigger, so you're getting little gaps. By doing that with the different colours, you do create a bit of a texture that looks like scales. Okay. So now we're coming back up to this top area. I'll show you. So it's like a circular motion, look, and I'm just moving it around. I'm just making sure I keep looking roughly at my picture, the reference photo, just so I know. And if you look, they get very small and more close together up here at the top end. But then as you come down, go into this area and pull it. So you're coming out of the darker area into this area. And then the really small up the top. You can see you're actually creating that little bit of a texture. Okay. So it's giving you that impression, but without going too mad. And then if you want, you can actually put in a little bit of this red violet as well in little areas. You don't need to go as mad with this. Now this would be more towards this central bit here. And where your shadowy areas are. And then again, you can use the indigo blue as well for the real dark sections. Okay. And if you want, if you've got a putty rubber, if you just dab it, you can see where, if you look at your reference, you've got this little thin strip here where it's a little bit lighter. If you just dab it, you're actually creating a bit of a lighter section there, look, just there. You can see how that looks like skin now that's coming round, and that is a hole going into the nostril, and that's where it's going in there and getting darker. Okay, so now we're just going to sort of repeat that on this side. I'm just going to put some more definite lines in. So if you use your point of your pencil, if you want to make some more definite lines, and just put a little bit more pressure on. So where the darkest areas are, if you want. Like that. So it's just kind of like a scribbling effect. Like that. And that will help you create that texture. Okay, so that's that one side. So we're doing exactly the same on this side. Okay, so you're just closely observing which way. So the darkest side of the nostrils on this side. Like that. So you're coming up. So small circular motions. You get the shape in. Now I'm putting more pressure on the middle and this section than I am on the outer section, because we need to blend that with the other colours. Okay, and then that comes right away. Like that. And I'm just going to use the point of the pencil over that purple area, just circular motions, but in direction of form, just to get that, those little lined areas. Some of them are going that way as well, little scale marks. Okay, and then this side, the shadow area, which comes down here, and then I'm just going to soften off into that area, and then down here where it's a bit darker. Okay, and then this is where it's really dark. Now I can't quite see the so I'm going to use the black, really darken that bit there off. That's a bit better. You can actually see that more now. That's the center of that crease. Okay. And that's where that bit sort of comes up there. Okay, so it's like pressure again, sepia, like that. So I'm watching where this, the low light area is, so I'm not putting as much pressure on there. And it comes up here to this nostril. I'm using more of a scribbling effect, as I say. This is where it's a little bit blending out from this, from the nose. It comes around here. It sort of curls around a bit there. Okay. So back round there again. And then I'm going to build this blue up a little bit here. Going into the dark, so it pulls all the colours together. We've got a little bit of a light blue area in there. All the way up. And then if you look in this section, it is quite, this highlight isn't as prominent as that one. It's a little bit bluer. So I'm just going to put that there and just pull it up to there. And then the white, I'm just literally going to put here. And then I'm just going to blend all of this together again. Light pressure. Blend. I'm not, like I say, I'm not being as careful with my circular motions as I would be normally, and that is because I want this to help. It's going to help with the texture on the nose. Right then, so now, sepia again, just where it's going to come round. So that's the nose area there. So it's going to come out here. So because I put the purple on underneath, when I put sepia, it is giving it a little bit of a different colour. Okay. So around there, so it's dark here. But it's not the interior of the nose. So let's just fill that interior in again. And then around here. Direction of form, it's coming round. So this sort of gives you that arch effect there. So, and then we're moving into the top of the bridge of the nose there. Right, so I'm going to put a bit of the Delft Blue here. So around where I put this darker colours, I'm just going to put the Delft Blue into there a little bit, like this shadow, and then the Red Violet. So very light pressure. Okay. So now we're going to use the white luminance to sort of put in some of this light area. And then I'm going to use the black on this nostril here. Just double checking all the time, looking at the reference photograph. So I'm using black at the moment here. And this is the darkest area of the nostril. And then as I come around here, I'm alleviating some of the pressure. It's not holding the pencil as tight. Okay. Again, a bit more pressure as we come up here. And then just take off the pressure a little bit here as we're going into that purple area there. Okay, and then I'm going to use the indigo to go over the darkest area there. It's going to be the dark area. Then I'm going to use the dark flesh on this side of the nostril as we come in around the top there and around here. And as it's coming out, just put the dark flesh with that purple marking. And then also we've got some of the dark flesh here. And also a bit round here. Okay. Come down here. Okay. Build this shadow area up here with the black or sepia, whichever you prefer. I've done sepia, so I'm just going to do a bit of black now. A little less pressure as we're coming up here. I'll put a few of the marks in. If I can see any marks coming off this the reference photo. Some of the scaly marks. Okay. Just in with the blue, pale blue. So just layering these colours up so we've got enough layer to use the, and then here, put on some of the Delft blue. And then we've got some of this green here. Comes down here, and then we've actually got a little bit of, so I'm just glazing that colour again. So you just lightly adding a tinge of that colour there. It comes up there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so up here, I'm actually going to put in quite a bit. I'm going to put some sepia. It's got some sort of very dark sort of little lines here. So by using the scribbling motion with the sepia, you can get those marks in better. Okay. And then what's around it. Now this side is slightly darker, so you're going to get it coming into the blue more on this side than you would on that side. And then here they get very small. Just little scribble marks like that. And then what I'm going to do is the ultramarine blue. Yeah, so we've got some ultramarine blue here, which is slightly darker than the sky blue. Add some of them scribbles in there as well. So this is slightly darker on this side. Okay. And with the blue violet, just again putting some little remembering that they are smaller at the top. And blend them into this area here a bit. Okay. Just glazing over the top now with a cold grey 3. Just to blend it in a little bit and glaze it. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to use the tool again. Just putting a few defined little shapes in where the lighter areas are, or where you come from the dark to the lighter areas. Moving down here, coming up into this lighter area here. And I'm not literally scraping the paper, I'm just pulling back on the pigment. So you need plenty of layers in to get this right. If you've got the layers in, then you can just scrape away some of the pigment. And that's why it's important to get the, also to get the foundation layers in with the right colour. If you want a lighter colour when you're coming out with this scratching technique, and if you've got a lighter pigment underneath, then that's fine. But if you haven't put that there, then you're not going to get that. If you look, we've got quite a few little marks just coming up here. Some into the blue. And then what I'm going to do is with the red violet, with the dark flesh, I'm just going to go around and put in some dark contrast areas next to the real light areas if I can. So I'll show up a little bit more. Like that. And last off, I'm just going to put the shadow area in here. Again, small circular motions, lifting the colour as you come away into the lighter section. Okay. And there's some really dark areas in the side of this bit here. So this is on the darker side of the nose. Okay, there you go. Now, all I say is just take your time, don't rush it. I mean, I do it a little bit quicker because obviously, for one, I've got the filming to do, and also I've been doing it a bit longer as well. But just take your time and work at your own pace. That's the important thing. And you keep going until you feel you've got everything tonally right, and also, you know, shape wise and color wise. So I'm just going to lift the light a bit there. So that's just going to give that a little bit of a lighter tinge. That's that one there. And then finally, I'm just literally going to put a glaze, very light, ready glaze over there. Like that. Okay. That's one I did earlier, and then that's that one. Okay. So there are a few differences. If you want to, you can. That's just doing some fur line around the edges. But to, you know, just for this video, I just wanted to show you the actual nose. But we are going on to do a full dog. So I'm just going to put a bit of cream glaze over this and over the blue as well, just to patch it all together. Okay. So there you go. One dog's nose. Okay. Well, I hope you have fun. As I say, just take your time. Showed you the basic techniques. It's basically what you've got to get to grips with is layering, blending. We're also lifting colour out, which is with the ceramic blade. And looking, so you need to look for shapes and tones. They're the most important aspects on this. So if you squint at your photograph, you will see the colours and the shapes and the tones a lot better. And even print out your reference photograph in a black and white form. That will give you the tonal values a lot better. Okay, but you can see I've done the nostrils now a little bit more. So if I move it, you can see we've got more of a bluey tinge here, dark blue, and then it's got a bit lighter as it's come out. And that's what gives it the 3D effect. Okay. And you've got this crease here, and again, you've got the colours coming out, and you've got that dimply bit there in the middle, at the bottom. Okay. So I hope you get on all right with that. If you've got any questions or anything, please don't hesitate, email me, and we'll have a look at them and see what we can come up with. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.